Moving on from the brain into the spinal cord, we're still within the central nervous system, but we're going to start looking into the structures of the spinal cord. So now, if you go up to the brainstem, you have the most inferior part of the brainstem being the medulla oblongata. Just below that is where the spinal cord starts. Your spinal cord then runs down to about lumbar 1 or lumbar 2. No, the spinal cord doesn't actually run all the way down to the pelvis. It stops at the first or second lumbar vertebrae. Beyond that, you're looking at the spinal nerves. Now, this is a two-way conduction pathway. Your spinal cord will carry information ascending or sensory, as well as descending or motor. So both ways are being transmitted up and down. It really is a major reflex center because depending on what's coming in, it can make a split decision and say, okay, react. Think about if you're at the doctor's and they check your patellar ligament. They tap at your knee and your leg moves. That just goes up to your spinal cord and back down. Your spinal cord will let your brain know, hey, by the way, this happened. But the spinal cord itself makes the decision to move the leg. So just like the brain, we need to protect the spinal cord. So how do you protect it? Well, first thing, bone. All the vertebrae are protecting the spinal cord. Now, the interesting thing here is, though, unlike the brain has all those bones around it. They're a solid piece. They don't move. Your vertebrae are protecting the spinal cord, but they have to be able to move. So they allow for some flexibility in between a little bit. You then have the meninges. Just like in the brain, we have the dura mater, we have the arachnoid mater, we have the pia mater. The dura mater, you can see, is this darker kind of outside one here, with the arachnoid mater just on the inside layer. And then this reddish tinge around, that is going to be the pia mater, tight to the spinal cord. So same basic ideas from the brain are relating now into the spinal cord. CSF, or cerebral spinal fluid. Just like in the brain, it's encasing around the spinal cord. So it's creating this kind of fluid-based environment. So when you start looking at the spinal cord, the way the naming works, you're named based on the regions. So you'll notice there's the cervical region up here, which are found in the cervical vertebrae. You'll have your thoracic region here, thoracic vertebrae. The lumbar region is a little bit different because the lumbar region is here, even though it's the very edge of the thoracic vertebrae. And then you have sacral and coccygeal at the bottom. That's only based on where the nerves are coming out. So really, all these different regions are named based on where the nerves are exiting the actual vertebral column. You also have two enlargements to look at. We have the cervical enlargements and the lumbar enlargements. So if we have a cervical and a lumbar enlargement, why do you think at those points the actual spinal cord is a little thicker? Well, think about it. Cervical, all those nerves from the arm are coming in. Lumbar, everything from the legs is coming up into the lumbar. So you have a larger amount of nerves coming in. So you need physically a little larger space in the actual spinal cord to get everything in and situated. So cervical and lumbar enlargements coming from the arms and legs. So cervical and lumbar. Couple other pieces, the conus medullaris. Now over here you can kind of see it's this tip right here, but really it's just the very tip of the spinal cord, that piece right there. So that very tiny end, that very tip is the conus medullaris. The filum terminale. This thin filament that runs all the way down. It's there, it's going to run all the way from the conus medullaris all the way down to the very end, the coccyx. The idea is you're trying to hold the spinal cord in place. Make sure that it's not going to kind of move up and down. It creates more of an anchoring point. Then we have the cauda equina, or known as the horse's tail. So equina horse, cauda tail. So cauda equina are all of these spinal nerves that branch off of the end of the actual spinal cord. So it kind of looks like a horse's tail branching off down at the ends. The cauda equina. So a few of the overall structures of the entire spinal cord.